The decompression alarm screamed through the passenger liner's cabin as oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Connor Hayes gripped his armrest and watched the Velkin diplomat's fur ripple with panic 3 rows ahead. The cat-like alien was clawing at her mask, her translator garbling distress calls that nobody on the human majority flight could understand. "She's suffocating," Connor muttered, unbuckling fast. The flight attendant's voice crackled over the intercom. "Remain seated. Emergency protocols in effect." Connor ignored it. He'd spent 2 years as a fleet mechanic on the border stations. He knew Vulcans needed nitrogen-rich air, not the standard oxygen mix pumping through those masks. The ship was venting atmosphere through a hull breach, somewhere in the cargo section, and protocol meant sealing everything tight. For humans, that worked fine. For her, it was a death sentence. He shoved past a frozen businessman and reached the diplomat. Her golden eyes were dilating, her breathing shallow and rapid. Connor ripped off his own mask and pressed it against her face, knowing it wouldn't help but needing to try something. "Easy, easy," he said, though she couldn't understand him. Her claws caught his forearm, drawing blood through his sleeve. The pain was sharp, but he held steady. "Think." The first-class cabin had separate environmental controls. He'd seen the specs during his certification courses, different air mix options for different species. Connor scooped the Velkin up. She was lighter than he expected, all fur and bone. Her body trembled against his chest as he ran toward the first-class partition. A flight attendant blocked his path. "Sir, you cannot move or she dies." Something in his voice made the attendant step aside. Connor crashed through the curtain into first class where a handful of wealthy passengers sat in their premium seats, masks on, watching the commotion with wide eyes. He dropped the Velkin into his own first-class seat, the one he'd saved 3 months of wages to afford. The one that would let him arrive at the memorial service for his sister rested and presentable instead of cramped and exhausted in economy. His fingers flew across the seat's control panel, environmental settings, atmosphere composition. There, nitrogen 78%, oxygen 16, other gases balanced for Velkin physiology. He slammed the confirm button. The seat's personal environmental shield shimmered to life around the diplomat. Her breathing steadied almost immediately. Her eyes focused on Connor's face, intelligence returning to them. The ship shuddered. Another breach closer this time. Connor looked at the empty economy seats visible through the partition. No environmental controls there. No species-specific options. Just standard human-safe atmosphere that would keep pumping even as the ship tore itself apart. He'd given up his safety for hers. The Velkin reached through the shield and touched his bleeding arm. Her translator finally caught up. "Why?" it said in her voice. Connor smiled despite everything. Someone had to. The hull breach worsened. Emergency lights bathed the cabin in red as the ship listed 15 degrees to starboard. Connor braced himself against the first-class bulkhead while passengers screamed. The Velkin diplomat stayed locked in the environmental shield, her eyes tracking him through the shimmering barrier. The captain's voice cut through the chaos. "All passengers brace for emergency separation. Lifeboat deployment in 90 seconds. 90 seconds. Connor's mind raced. The lifeboats were designed for humans. Standard atmosphere, standard gravity compensation, standard everything. The Velkin wouldn't survive the transfer. The moment that environmental shield dropped, she'd have maybe 2 minutes before nitrogen deprivation caused permanent brain damage. He slapped the intercom button near the first-class galley. "Bridge, this is Passenger Hayes. I'm a certified fleet mechanic. Registration number 7739 Delta. You've got a Velkin diplomat in Cabin A who can't breathe our air. She won't make the lifeboats." Static. Then a new voice, sharp and military. "Hayes, this is Commander Lisa Grant. We know. We're working on it. Work faster," Connor said. "What's the breach status?" A pause. Micro-meteoroid strike punctured the cargo hold. Secondary breach forming near the fuel lines. We're losing structural integrity across 3 sections. Connor's gut went cold. He'd seen this scenario in training sims. Once the breaches cascaded near fuel systems, you had minutes before catastrophic failure. "You're going to blow the cargo section." Affirmative. 30 seconds to separation charges. The Velkin was watching him. Her translator crackled. You understand what is happening? Yeah. Connor checked the seat's power supply. Environmental shields drew massive energy. In emergency mode, with the ship's main power fluctuating, the shield had maybe 15 minutes of charge left. Not enough to reach the nearest station. Not even close. The deck lurched. Separation charges detonated with muffled thumps that Connor felt in his bones. Through the viewports, he glimpsed the cargo section tumbling away into space, trailing debris and frozen atmosphere. The ship stabilized. Temporarily. All passengers. Lifeboat deployment beginning now, the captain announced. Connor watched the other first-class passengers scramble toward the emergency airlocks. None of them looked back at the Velkin. None of them cared that she was trapped in a chair while they ran to safety. He stayed. The Velkin's translator spoke again. You should go. I am one. You are many. Nah. Connor dropped into the seat beside her environmental shield. I've got a better idea, but I need you to trust me. Her ears flattened. I do not know you. You do now. He pulled up the ship's emergency systems on the seat display. His mechanic credentials gave him access most passengers didn't have. There's a cargo lifeboat 3 sections aft. Heavy-duty model used for transporting exotic goods. It's got modular atmosphere controls because they use it for biological specimens. The Velkin's eyes widened. You cannot reach it. The corridors are sealed. Watch me. Connor studied the ship's schematic. The passenger sections were locked down, but the maintenance crawlways between decks stayed open during emergencies so crew could make emergency repairs. He'd spend months crawling through similar tunnels on station duty. Tight spaces, low lighting, but navigable. Commander Grant's voice returned. Hayes, get to a lifeboat now. That's an order. Not a military vessel, Commander. Not your jurisdiction. Connor stood and started pulling emergency supplies from the first-class storage compartments. Breather masks, portable oxygen, medical kit, emergency rations. I'm getting the Velkin to the cargo lifeboat. She'll survive there. The ship has 8 minutes before main power fails, maybe less. Then I better move fast. Connor disabled the environmental shield with a override command. The Velkin gasped as the nitrogen-rich bubble collapsed. He grabbed her arm and pulled her up. Hold your breath. This is going to hurt. She nodded, her face already darkening from oxygen exposure. Connor ran. He hauled the Velkin through the first-class cabin, past the empty seats, past his own forgotten carry-on bag stuffed under row 3. The maintenance access panel was hidden behind a decorative wall panel near the aft restrooms. He ripped the panel off with his bare hands and pried open the crawlway hatch. The Velkin was choking now, her body convulsing. Connor shoved her into the dark tunnel and climbed in after her, slamming the hatch shut. The crawlway had minimal atmosphere, mostly vacuum with trace gases. Bad for humans. Barely survivable for Velkins without proper gear. He activated his emergency breather mask and pressed the spare against the Velkin's face. Not ideal, not species appropriate, but better than nothing. 3 sections. He gasped. Stay with me. They crawled through the darkness while the ship screamed around them. 3 cycles in, Connor's body was screaming. Every switch from human to Velkin atmosphere felt like drowning in reverse. His lungs burned during the nitrogen-rich phases even with meditation techniques. His head pounded. His vision blurred at the edges. Kira wasn't doing much better. During her oxygen exposure periods, her fur had started falling out in patches. Her translator reported elevated stress hormones and early signs of cellular damage. This isn't working, Connor gasped as the atmosphere switched back to human optimal for his 4th cycle. We're killing each other slowly. Kira lay curled on the opposite bench, her breathing deliberate and controlled. Do you have a better solution? Connor didn't. The distress beacon kept transmitting, but no response had come. The lifeboat's computer estimated they were drifting at 0.03 SDNUs per hour. Pushed by the momentum from the ship's separation charges, every minute took them further from the disaster site, further from where rescue teams would search first. He checked the sensors again. Nothing. Just empty space and distant starlight. Tell me about your sister, Kira said suddenly. Connor's head snapped up. What? You were traveling to a memorial service. First class, expensive ticket, formal clothes in your bag. Her golden eyes watched him steadily. You were going to honor someone. How did you... I am a diplomat. I observe. Kira shifted, wincing as the movement stressed her oxygen-damaged tissues. Talking will keep us conscious, keep us fighting, so tell me. Connor leaned back against the cold hull. The breather mask muffled his voice. Her name was Claire. She was a xenobiologist on the research station at Kepler 442, studied cross-species communication, trying to build better translation algorithms. He paused. There was an accident 6 months ago. Reactor malfunction. She got 37 people to the escape pods before the radiation exposure became lethal. She saved many. Yeah. Connor's throat tightened. She saved everyone but herself. Kira was quiet for a moment. Then her translator spoke softly. She would approve of you. Approve of what? This. Giving up safety for a stranger. It is the same choice she made. Connor wanted to argue, but the words died in his chest. Maybe Kira was right. Maybe he'd learned more from Claire than he'd realized. Maybe saving people was something that ran in families, written in whatever genetic code made humans willing to sacrifice for others. The lifeboat shuddered. Connor's heart jumped before he realized it was just a minor course correction from the automatic stabilizers. They were still drifting, still alone. Your turn, he said. Why were you on that passenger liner? Diplomatic Corps usually travel on dedicated transports. Kira's ears flattened. I was returning from a failed negotiation. The Terran Commerce Guild rejected our trade proposals for the 3rd time. They find our cultural practices too alien, our biology too incompatible with human standards. Her claws flexed. They smile and nod and say all the correct diplomatic words, but the answer is always no. That's why you were an economy, Connor realized. Budget cuts after the failed mission. Correct. The Vulcan government does not waste resources on failures. You're not a failure. I have achieved nothing in 4 years of service. Connor laughed, the sound harsh through his mask. You're still breathing, aren't you? You survived a hull breach, multiple atmosphere transitions, and you're stuck in a lifeboat with a stubborn human mechanic. I'd call that pretty successful. Kira made that sound again, the one that might have been laughter. Your species has unusual definitions of success. Yeah, we do. Connor checked the chrono. 2 minutes until the next atmosphere switch. His chest was already tightening in anticipation. We measure it in heartbeats, not achievements. Every moment you keep going counts. The environmental system began its transition cycle. Connor felt the oxygen percentage dropping, nitrogen rising. His body tensed against the change. Then the lifeboat's proximity alarm screamed. Connor jerked upright. The sensors showed a massive object approaching fast. Too big to be debris, too controlled to be a random asteroid. The silhouette resolved on the display as something sleek and angular, covered in sensor arrays and comm dishes. A ship, not human design. Not Vulcan either. What is that? Kira demanded, struggling to her feet. Connor pulled up the identification scanner. The results made his blood run cold. Kreth's salvage vessel. They're scavengers. They strip disaster sites for valuable materials and sell survivors to labor contractors. They're criminals? Worse, they're legal. Connor's mind raced. The Kreth operated in the gray zones between civilized space and the frontier. Technically licensed salvage operators. Practically slavers who exploited loopholes in interstellar law. Anyone they rescued could be held for ransom or sold to pay for rescue costs, plus fees, plus interest, plus whatever else they invented. The comm system crackled. A harsh, clicking voice spoke in mangled standard. Life pod, you are claimed under salvage rights. Prepare for boarding. Resistance will increase your debt. Kira's fur stood on end. We cannot let them take us. We don't have a choice. Connor checked the lifeboat systems. No weapons. Minimal maneuvering thrusters. The Kreth vessel could catch them easily, and shooting at a licensed salvage operator would make them pirates under maritime law. The Kreth ship matched velocity, extending a docking tube toward the lifeboat's airlock. Connor looked at Kira. She looked back. In her eyes, he saw the same calculation he was making. Surrender meant debt slavery. Running meant nothing. Fighting meant worse. There's a third option, Connor said slowly. What option? He pulled up the lifeboat's emergency protocols and found the setting he needed. Lifeboats have a black box function. If we trigger it, the boat seals completely and goes into distress mode. Broadcasts a priority rescue signal that supersedes salvage rights. The Kreth can't legally board once it's activated. But, Kira prompted, reading his hesitation, but it locks from the inside. Can't be opened except by certified rescue personnel with proper authorization codes. We'd be trapped until real help arrives. How long? Connor checked the distress grid. The nearest patrol vessel was 18 hours away, longer than either of us can survive on rationed atmosphere. The docking tube clanged against their hull. The Kreth were already attaching boarding clamps. Kira moved to the controls. Her claw hovered over the black box activation. We choose our own fate, yes, not theirs. Connor thought about Claire, about the choices she'd made in her final moments, about the kind of person he wanted to be. Yeah, he said, we choose. Kira slammed the button. The lifeboat's systems locked down with a series of heavy mechanical clanks. Armored shutters slammed across the viewports. The airlock mechanisms froze in sealed position. The emergency beacon shifted frequencies, broadcasting a priority distress call that screamed across every rescue channel in the sector. Outside, the Kreth salvagers hammered against the hull. Connor heard their cutting tools whining as they tried to breach the reinforced plating. They wouldn't get through. Black box mode turned lifeboats into fortress capsules, designed to protect survivors from everything, including aggressive salvage attempts. The clicking voice returned on the comm, furious now. You have violated salvage protocol. We will file legal claims. Your debt increases with every minute. Connor muted the channel. Let them talk. They can't touch us. Kira slumped against the wall, her breathing already labored. We have bought ourselves a slower death? Maybe. Connor pulled up the environmental controls and stared at the numbers. 18 hours until rescue. They had enough combined atmosphere for maybe 12 if they kept alternating. 6 hours short. The math was brutal. Unless he changed the equation. What if we didn't alternate? Connor said. Kira's ears perked up. You would die in 2 hours. Not if I went into full meditative shutdown. Drop my metabolism to minimum, slow my heart rate, reduce oxygen consumption to almost. He'd trained for it in the fleet. Every mechanic learned deep space survival techniques for emergency situations. He'd never thought he'd actually use them. That is extremely dangerous for humans. Your species is not adapted for such states. Neither is yours for pure oxygen environments, but you've been doing it. Connor started pulling emergency medical supplies from the storage lockers. Stimulants, metabolic suppressants, biosensors, everything he'd need to induce and monitor a controlled hibernation state. I can get my oxygen needs down to maybe 10% of normal. That stretches the timeline. Kira moved closer, studying his face. You will be unconscious, helpless. You will have to trust me completely. Yeah. Connor met her eyes. I do. Why? Because you're still here. You could have switched the atmosphere back to Velkin optimal hours ago and let me suffocate. Would have been easier for you. He started attaching biosensors to his chest, but you didn't. That tells me everything I need to know. Kira's translator was silent for a long moment. Then she reached out and adjusted one of the sensors Connor had placed wrong. Her claws were gentle. Careful. Your sister taught you to trust. She taught me to see people clearly. Connor loaded a metabolic suppressant into an injector. You're a good person stuck in a bad situation trying to do the right thing. Same as me. The Kreth vessel outside detached with an angry burst of thrust. Connor watched them on sensors, circling the lifeboat like predators around prey they couldn't reach. Eventually they'd leave, go hunt easier salvage. But their legal claim would stand. If Connor and Kira survived, they'd face debt hearings and contract disputes that could drag on for years, one problem at a time. Okay, Connor said, settling onto the bench. I'm going to inject the suppressant and then start the meditation sequence. My heart rate will drop to maybe 15 beats per minute. Breathing will slow to almost nothing. It'll look like I'm dying, but I'm not. The biosensors will show the difference. How long can you maintain this state? Theoretically, 16 hours. Practically, I've never done it for more than 4 during training. He smiled behind his breather mask. Guess we'll find out together. Kira sat across from him, her golden eyes reflecting the emergency lighting. I will monitor you. I will keep you alive. I know you will. Connor pressed the injector against his neck. When rescue comes, tell them everything. Make sure they know the Kreth tried to claim us illegally. Don't let them twist the story. I will. Connor triggered the injector. Cold spread through his veins. His heart immediately began to slow, responding to the chemical commands flooding his system. He focused on his breathing, drawing it down, making each breath count for more. One more thing he managed, his words slurring as the suppressant took hold. My bag. In the overhead compartment back on the ship. Had Claire's letters in it. If somehow they recover the wreckage, if you could, I will find them, Kira promised. I swear it. Connor's vision tunneled. His consciousness began to drift, floating in the space between waking and true hibernation. He felt Kira's paw on his shoulder, her warmth the last thing he registered before the darkness took him. His heart rate dropped to 12 beats per minute. 8, 5. The biosensors painted green lines across the medical display, confirming the hibernation was holding. Connor Hayes hung suspended in the space between life and death, trusting an alien diplomat he'd met 4 hours ago to keep him breathing. Kira watched the monitors with fierce intensity. She adjusted the atmospheric controls, maximizing nitrogen content now that Connor's oxygen needs were minimal. Her own body relaxed as proper air filled her lungs for the first time since the disaster began. The hours crawled past. Kira talked to Connor's unconscious form, telling him about Velka, about her family, about the dreams that had brought her to the diplomatic corps. She told him about the prejudices she'd faced, the doors that had closed because humans couldn't see past her fur and claws to the person underneath. You saw me, she said to the sleeping human. In 30 seconds, in the worst moment, you saw me as someone worth saving. No calculation, no debate. Just action. She checked the beacon. Still transmitting. Still unanswered. 10 hours passed. 12. Connor's vital signs remained stable but weak. Kira's own exhaustion was mounting despite the proper atmosphere. She hadn't slept since before the flight began. Hadn't eaten. Hadn't rested. Adrenaline and determination could only carry her so far. At hour 14, the proximity alarm sounded again. Kira's heart raced. Not the Kreth this time. The sensor profile was clean, official, displaying proper rescue service transponders. A Terran-Velkin joint rescue ship, broadcasting friendly identification codes. Lifeboat Epsilon 7. This is TVJRS Meridian. We have your distress call. Preparing specialized atmospheric recovery. Hold position and stand by. Kira's legs nearly gave out. She grabbed Connor's shoulder and shook him gently. They are here. We survived. Connor didn't respond. His heart rate stayed locked at 5 beats per minute, his body still deep in hibernation. The rescue ship maneuvered alongside, docking clamps engaged. The black box protocols recognized the proper authorization codes and began the unsealing sequence. The airlock opened. A rescue team in hybrid atmosphere suits rushed in, their movements professional and precise. A human medic went straight to Connor, while a Velkin specialist checked Kira's vitals. He is in controlled hibernation, Kira explained quickly. Metabolic suppressant, self-induced. 14 hours duration. The medic's eyes widened. That's insane. Humans can't maintain that long. This one did. Kira watched as they loaded Connor onto a medical gurney. He gave up everything to save me, multiple times. Do not let him die now. We've got him, the medic promised. You both made it. Against impossible odds, you made it. They carried Connor toward the rescue ship's medical bay. Kira followed, refusing to leave his side even as her own legs trembled with exhaustion. The Meridian's captain met them in the corridor. A tall, human woman with commander's insignia. Ambassador Vel? I'm Captain Lauren Pierce. The Velkin Diplomatic Corps has been searching for you since the passenger liner went down. There's a lot of people who want to talk to you. Later, Kira said firmly. First, I stay with him. Captain Pierce looked at Connor's unconscious form, then back at Kira. Something shifted in her expression. Understanding, maybe. Respect. Of course, she said. Come with me. Connor woke to the smell of recycled air and antiseptic. His body felt like lead, every muscle locked and aching from the hibernation. Monitors beeped softly nearby. Medical bay. He was in a medical bay. He tried to sit up and a firm paw pressed against his chest. Stay down, Kira said. The doctor said you need at least 6 more hours of rest before moving. Connor's eyes focused. She was sitting beside his bed, her fur groomed and clean, medical patches visible on her shoulders where the oxygen exposure had damaged her skin. But she was alive, alert, watching him with those golden eyes that held something he hadn't seen before, gratitude mixed with something fiercer. How long? Connor rasped. 30 hours since rescue. You have been unconscious for most of it. Your body was severely depleted. Kira held up a water container with a straw. Drink. Small sips. Connor obeyed. The water tasted like salvation. The Kreth? Captain Pierce filed formal complaints with the salvage authority. The Kreth vessel's license is under review. Their claim against us was denied. Kira's ears twitched with satisfaction. They also face fines for attempting to breach a black box seal. Good. Connor managed a weak smile. Serves them right. A doctor entered, human, wearing the insignia of the Terran Medical Service. She scanned Connor with a handheld device and frowned at the results. Mr. Hayes, what you did was medically reckless, physiologically dangerous, and honestly one of the most impressive hibernation inductions I've seen outside of extreme survival cases. She paused. Also, you're incredibly lucky to be alive. I had help. Connor glanced at Kira. The doctor followed his gaze. Yes, Ambassador Vel has been very thorough in explaining the circumstances. She also hasn't left your side except when we forced her to eat and sleep. The doctor's expression softened. You two have caused quite a stir. What kind of stir? The kind where the Vulcan Diplomatic Corps and the Terran Commerce Guild are currently in emergency sessions. The kind where news feeds across 3 systems are running stories about a human mechanic and a Vulcan diplomat surviving impossible odds together. The doctor checked her tablet. Also, you've received 47 interview requests, 12 book deal offers, and 1 marriage proposal from someone on Station Kepler who apparently finds survival skills attractive. Connor blinked. That's insane. That's humanity, Kira said quietly. They love stories of people defying death. The doctor finished her examination and adjusted Connor's IV drip. He'll make a full recovery. Another day of observation, then you're cleared for discharge. She looked between Connor and Kira. Though I suspect you two have some things to discuss first. She left them alone. The silence stretched. Connor studied Kira's face, reading the tension there. What happened while I was out? Something's wrong. Kira's claws flexed. The Terran Commerce Guild contacted me. They want to reopen trade negotiations. That's good, right? That's what you've been working toward? They only want to negotiate because of what happened. Because a human saved a Vulcan. Because we survived together. Because this story makes them look bad for rejecting us before. Her voice carried an edge of bitterness. It is not real change. It is public relations. Connor levered himself up despite the protest from his muscles. So make it real. Use the attention. Force them to see Vulcans as people instead of just alien trading partners. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's necessary. Connor reached out, hesitated, then rested his hand near hers on the bed. Not touching, but close. Claire used to say that change starts with one person seeing another person clearly. Everything else builds from that moment. Kira looked at their hands, so close but separated by species and custom and 1,000 cultural differences. Your sister was wise. She was stubborn as hell is what she was. Connor smiled. But yeah, wise too. The medical bay door opened. Captain Pierce entered with a tall Vulcan male, wearing diplomatic robes and a human woman in a business suit that screamed corporate authority. Mr. Hayes, Ambassador Vel, Pierce said. This is High Counselor Theron Vell of the Velkin Diplomatic Corps and Director Margaret Hoffman of the Terran Commerce Guild. They'd like to speak with you both. Counselor Theron moved to Kira's side. His fur was silver with age, his eyes sharp and calculating. Niece, you have done well. Kira's spine stiffened. Uncle, nothing more. You have done far more than survive. Theron gestured to Director Hoffman. The Terrans wish to discuss new terms, favorable terms, because of you. Hoffman stepped forward, her smile professional but warm. Mr. Hayes, your actions have resonated deeply with the human population. You represent the best of what humanity can be. She turned to Kira. And Ambassador Vell, your courage and resilience have forced us to reconsider our previous positions regarding Velkin integration into Terran commerce networks. Connor's gut twisted. He knew corporates speak when he heard it. You're using us. Hoffman's smile didn't waver. We're recognizing an opportunity for mutual benefit. The publicity surrounding your survival has created unprecedented goodwill between our species. It would be wasteful not to capitalize on that momentum. Capitalize. Connor laughed, the sound harsh. You mean exploit. Connor, Kira said softly. No. He looked at Theron, then at Hoffman. You two want to turn what happened into a marketing campaign. Slap our faces on trade agreements and call it progress. But nothing actually changes, does it? The same prejudices, the same barriers, just wrapped in prettier paper. Theron's ears flattened. You overstep, human. These are matters I'm directly involved in, Connor interrupted. Kira nearly died because your government put her on a budget transport after she failed to get results from people who never planned to give her a fair chance. I nearly died because I chose to help someone your society labeled expendable. The room went silent. Kira stared at Connor with wide eyes. Captain Pierce looked like she was trying not to smile. Hoffman recovered first. Mr. Hayes, I understand you're upset, but I'm not upset. I'm clear. Connor swung his legs off the bed, ignoring the doctor's orders. You want to negotiate? Fine. But Kira leads those negotiations as a full representative with real authority, not as a prop, not as a symbol, as the diplomat who earned her position by surviving hell and keeping another person alive against impossible odds. He looked at Theron. And you're going to give her the resources, the support, and the respect she deserves. Because if you don't, I'll make sure every news feed in 3 systems knows exactly how the Velkin Diplomatic Corps treats its people. Terran's fur bristled. You dare threaten. I dare tell the truth. Connor met the counselor's eyes without flinching. Try me. Kira stood slowly. She moved to Connor's side, her posture straight and proud. My human friend speaks harshly, but he speaks truly. I will negotiate, but on equal terms, with full authority. Or not at all. The silence stretched. Hoffman exchanged a glance with Theron. Some wordless communication passed between them, the kind that happened in corridors of power where real decisions got made. Finally, Hoffman nodded. Very well. Ambassador Vell, we'll arrange a formal negotiation session, full diplomatic status, complete authority to make binding agreements on behalf of the Velkin people. Theron's jaw tightened, but he bowed his head. It will be arranged. They left, their footsteps echoing in the corridor. Captain Pierce whistled softly. Well, that was either very brave or very stupid. Probably both, Connor admitted. He swayed slightly, the exertion catching up to him. Kira caught his arm, steadying him. You should rest. In a minute. Connor looked at her seriously. I meant what I said. You deserve better than being someone's political tool. I know. Kira's translator carried an emotion Connor couldn't quite identify. Thank you for everything. We saved each other, Connor said simply. That's what matters. 6 months later, Connor stood in the observation deck of Station Unity, watching ships drift through the commercial lanes like schools of metallic fish. The station was new, built specifically as a joint Terran-Velkin trade hub. Glass and steel architecture blended with organic Velkin design philosophies, creating something that belonged to both species and neither. He sipped terrible coffee from a dispenser and checked his messages. 43 new interview requests. He deleted them all without reading. You are still hiding from the media. Connor turned. Kira approached from the lift, wearing formal diplomatic robes that shimmered with embedded tech. She looked different now. Confident, powerful, like someone who'd fought through fire and come out stronger. Not hiding, ignoring. There's a difference. Connor gestured to the viewport. Besides, I like watching the ships. Reminds me this is real. Kira joined him at the window. The negotiations concluded this morning. Full trade access granted. Technology exchanges approved. Cultural programs funded for the next decade. She paused. It is real, because you made it real. Connor studied her reflection in the glass. The Commerce Guild tried to sideline you twice. You outmaneuvered them both times. I had a good teacher. Kira's ears twitched with amusement. A stubborn human mechanic who taught me that sometimes the right choice is the one that seems impossible. A Velkin family passed behind them. Parents with 2 youngsters who stared at Kira with wide eyes. The children whispered excitedly, pointing. Kira waved at them and they squealed with delight before their parents hurried them along. You are a hero to them, Connor observed. We are heroes to them. The story is about both of us. Connor shook his head. I just did what anyone would do. You did what most people should do, but rarely manage. Kira turned to face him fully. Which brings me to why I came to find you. I have been appointed as the permanent Velkin ambassador to Terran space. Station Unity will be my primary posting. That's incredible. Congratulations. There is more. Kira's golden eyes held his. I am authorized to build a full diplomatic staff, cultural liaisons, technical advisors, trade specialists. I need people I can trust, people who understand both species, people who see clearly. Connor's heart started beating faster. Kira, I want you as my chief cultural liaison. Official position, full diplomatic credentials, salary commensurate with the role. She smiled. Also, you would get your own office with much better coffee than this swill you are drinking. Connor looked at the coffee cup in his hand, then at Kira, then out at the ships moving through space. He'd returned to his mechanic job after the rescue, trying to rebuild normalcy. But normal felt wrong now. He'd seen too much, done too much, understood too much about how fragile and precious connection between species really was. I'm not a diplomat, he said finally. Neither was I until circumstances forced me to become one. Kira stepped closer. You understand humans in ways I never could, and you understand Velkins better than most humans ever will. That makes you exactly what this position needs. What about Claire's memorial? I never made it. I still need to. The memorial was 6 months ago, but her legacy continues. Kira pulled out a datapad and handed it to him. I had my staff research your sister's work. Her translation algorithms formed the foundation of the system that now allows real-time communication between our species. Every conversation, every negotiation, every friendship that forms between human and Velkin uses code she wrote. Connor stared at the datapad. Claire's name was listed in the technical credits, her contributions detailed and honored. His throat tightened. She built bridges, Kira said softly. Now you have the chance to walk across them, to help others do the same. Connor thought about the last 6 months. The awkward return to his old life, the nightmares about the lifeboat, the feeling that he'd left something important unfinished in that tiny capsule drifting through space. Maybe what he'd left unfinished was the work itself, the connection he and Kira had started building, the bridge between 2 people who'd seen each other clearly in the worst possible moment. Okay, Connor said, but I have conditions. Kira's ears perked forward. Name them. 1. I want a memorial fund established in Claire's name for young scientists studying cross-species communication. Full scholarships, no restrictions based on species or origin. Agreed. 2. No publicity stunts. We do the work because it matters, not because it looks good on news feeds. Agreed. 3. If I think the Commerce Guild or the Velkin Council is using our story to cover up actual problems, I speak out. publicly if necessary. No politics to silence me. Kira considered this. That condition may cause difficulties. I know, but it is also why you are the right person for this role. She extended her paw. Agreed. On all counts. Connor took her paw, sealing the agreement. Her fur was soft, her grip firm. The same paw that had steadied him in the lifeboat, that had monitored his vitals while he hung suspended between life and death. When do I start? He asked. Now, if you wish. We have our first major challenge already. What challenge? Kira gestured to the viewport. 3 Vulcan colony ships arrive next week. 5,000 families seeking new homes in Terran space. They will need help integrating, navigating bureaucracy, finding employment. Many humans are nervous about such a large influx. Connor whistled. That's not a challenge. That's a crisis waiting to happen. Exactly. Which is why I need someone who understands how to turn crisis into opportunity. Kira's translator carried dry humor. You have experience with that. Yeah, I guess I do. Connor finished his terrible coffee and tossed the cup in the recycler. All right. Let's get to work. They walked together through the station, past Velkin merchants setting up shops next to human vendors, past mixed-species families eating in the food court, past children of both species playing together in the recreation areas. The future, messy and complicated and beautiful. Connor's communicator buzzed. A message from an unknown sender. He almost deleted it, but something made him open it instead. It was a video file. He tapped play. The screen showed the recovered wreckage of the passenger liner, floating in a salvage facility. Workers in environment suits were cataloging debris. One of them held up a familiar bag. Connor's bag. The worker opened it and pulled out a bundle of letters tied with ribbon. Claire's letters. The video cut to a different scene. A Velkin salvage crew member, female, her fur marked with the patterns of the working class. She spoke directly to the camera. We found these in the recovered baggage. They belong to Connor Hayes. The letters speak of kindness, of seeing past differences, of building bridges between worlds. The Velkin worker smiled. My daughter reads them every night. She says they help her believe in a better future. The video ended with contact information for returning the letters. Connor stopped walking. Kira noticed and turned back. What is wrong? Connor showed her the video. Kira watched, her expression shifting through several emotions before settling on something warm and fierce. Your sister's words survived, she said. Just as you did. Just as we did. Yeah. Connor smiled despite the tears trying to form. I think Claire would approve of all this. I think she would be proud. Kira resumed walking, and Connor fell into step beside her. Come, we have work to do. Families to help, bridges to build. They entered the diplomatic offices together, 2 survivors who'd learned that the impossible was just another word for what hadn't been tried yet. And in the darkness of space, among the wreckage and debris of disaster, Claire's letters waited to come home, carrying messages of hope.